So, Paul, focusing in on Game 5, are you impressed by the Thunder or are you disappointed?
I'm thoroughly impressed with the Thunder. I mean, 68-win team, #1 seed. They just dominated in the conference finals. They made Ant-Man look like a mere mortal. Like, seriously, the suffocating defense. You know, and when I look at championship teams, I try to look for chinks in the armor. This is one of the more complete teams that I've seen in quite some time. I'm talking about you have interior presence on offense and defense. You have an unstoppable guard. You got defenders on all the wings and off the bench. I mean, there's no weaknesses that I can say. Of all the teams left, I can point out weaknesses for the Knicks. I can point out weaknesses for Indiana. But when I look at Oklahoma and what the dismantling that they have done to the Western Conference teams throughout the season and now here in the playoffs, this is their trophy to lose, I promise you. And I was looking at this stat. Listen to this stat. The players with 70 points, 15 rebounds, and 15 assists through a 2-game span. You want to know the players that's on that list? LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan on a 2-game stretch in the conference finals. That's elite company to be in for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're talking about an all-time run right now by this kid. And if we're going to start talking about faces of the league, if they win the NBA championship, we got to start looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, I am impressed with the Thunder. I'm disappointed in Anthony Edwards, but we'll save that for another time. I'm impressed with the Thunder because, look, I knew the T-Wolves were overmatched in this series. I did not expect them to win. But I also didn't know seeing a Thunder team in the Western Conference Finals for the first time ever with the opportunity to go to the finals and the best record in the league to defend if they were going to live up to that. And they did that and more. They took care of business, and it was the way they took care of business. This is the youngest team in the playoffs, and they played like savvy vets. There was never – I can think of times where watching the Warriors in their heyday or the Boston Celtics, there were times where they didn't let go of the rope, but they kind of lost their way a little bit. I don't know that I saw that with the Oklahoma City Thunder, certainly through these finals. Yeah, they got blown out one game when they came home, but outside of that game, they were just so consistent. When things would go a little sideways, it was only a possession or two, and there would be a timeout, and they'd come back out, and they'd be right back at business. And that's what's so impressive to me, that a team this young, this relatively inexperienced in the postseason, has handled their success the way that they have.
Yeah, I'm obviously super impressed with what the Thunder was able to do. They're #1 seed. They took care of business the way they were supposed to. When you're the #1 seed and you're playing the way that they've been playing throughout the entire playoffs, I didn't expect anything other than this. They're at home, and I think being at home for them is a key in the postseason because you can just see the crowd behind them and them getting the crowd up and going, especially when you got big dunks coming down the pipeline from Chet. You know, he had 22 points, and that joker's so tall, it's just like one of those, get him anywhere around the rim. If he plays at a physical level, he goes right back up there. You can't stop him. You can't match that. So when I started thinking about it, and like you said, we'll get to Ant-Man, Shai, they all following him. I mean, no matter who it is, it could be Jalen Williams, it could be Chet Holmgren, it could be Lou Dort to a degree. It's almost like he's a quiet leader without all the facial expressions and all the different stuff. He just knocked down shots left and right.
You are disappointed, though, that OKC is going, right? You wanted Minnesota and New York.
I wanted Minnesota.
That's where your disappointment comes in.
I wanted
right?
Minnesota, New York, just from a television standpoint.
Yeah. From an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah, from an entertainment standpoint. But you'll still get entertainment from SGA because he's the MVP. Okay. And I'm assuming Indy will come out of it based on what happens tonight and then in Game 6. I think it'll go.
And that's where you're going to have trouble staying awake on the couch.
Why?
Because it's going to be Indy OKC.
We're watching an all-time team, guys, right now. Whether you
I agree.
Yeah, that may be true. Like whether we know
I just
it or not.
can't.
I just want to know if Key has kind of changed his tune. Now that we've seen what we've seen.
I still feel like, for me and my eyeballs as a basketball fan, I like the game of basketball and these two teams playing.
Okay.
But I think just from a television standpoint, instead of it being a whatever rating, it's going to be a lower rating. That's all I'm saying.
I got you.
I mean, from a casual perspective, it's not even a conversation. Timberwolves-Knicks matchup would have been the best matchup for
would have had way more buzz.
For the casuals, it would have had more buzz. It has more storylines. The Pacers, assuming that the Pacers finish this off in 5 or 6, and the Thunder is going to be great basketball. But I mean, we're not going to. The New York Knicks in the NBA Finals would have been a bigger conversation.
100%.
Well, Knicks ain't out of it yet.
We'll get to them in a second. I'm going to dissent. I'm more disappointed in the Timberwolves than I am impressed with the Thunder. The Thunder are playing incredible basketball. They are on an all-time run. They do have the MVP. They won 4 more games than the next team in the league and 16 more than the next team in the West. They do have the league MVP. They're where they're supposed to be. Now, they've stepped up, but they've been ascending for some time. They've been building this for some time. So I'm not shocked, I will say, that they look the way that they do. They have unbelievable chemistry. They were favored, one of the teams favored to come out of the West at the beginning of the season. Shea was one of the favorites to win the MVP this year. So are they doing what's expected of them? Yes. Is it impressive still? Of course. But I'm disappointed that this is over in 5. Now, if it had been 7, gone down to the wire, if this has been a competitive series, maybe we're having a different conversation because somebody's got to win and lose. But it's over in 5. Like, the Western Conference Finals are over.
I know, right?
There's no more basketball. I think that's disappointing. That's disappointing. Like Ant is a superstar in this league, and there's no more Ant this year. That's done. Julius Randle, 6 points in game 2, 5 points in game 4, and had more turnovers than shots made in the first half yesterday. Naz Reid, 2 points and 3 turnovers in his first 8 minutes, dribbled the ball off his foot on a breakaway opportunity, finished with 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 fouls. Gobert. If you stack 3 of me, you've got 1 Gobert. Like, where is he?
Looked like Robert Parrish about 2 weeks ago.
Nobody can trust him. He had 2 points and 1 shot in 19 minutes. That's unacceptable. That's disappointing. That's a former Defensive Player of the Year. So, not taking anything away from what the Thunder did. They were dominant. They were impressive. Shea's been unbelievable. They're super fun to watch. Everything is coming together for them. But let's be serious. This is disappointing. I mean, 5 games to the Western Conference Finals when they did the same exact thing last year. I understand it was a little bit of a different team. But I'm disappointed that there's no more basketball to watch. And let's be honest, this wasn't a really competitive series.
Paul,
it just wasn't.
When did OKC take the soul from Minnesota? What game?
What game? I think it was game 4. Like, because when you look at it, Ant didn't play well, but for the majority, Minnesota played well. The bench had 60 points. Yeah. I feel like if Ant played better, he didn't take the shots that he needed. He wasn't aggressive, but they looked at that like that was the let's hold the fort right there. That was the over the hump game to tie the game up, to tie the series up 2-2. So that, it was a 2-point loss, I believe, in game 4.
Yeah.
I think right there from that point on, and they saw what Shea was doing, it was like nothing we could do. It was discouraging for them.
Yeah, I agree. Because that was the most competitive game of the series. And look, we can say that they beat them by 40 points. They did, but
they was already up 2-0, though, right?
Up 2-0. They took the foot off the gas. They felt that they had a bubble, and they did because the series is over. I think it's disappointing. Anytime it's a short series, for me, it's disappointing in the conference finals.
Well, especially because you can make the case that Minnesota had the talent to make this a competitive series.
Right.
A much more competitive series than it ended up being. So, no question that there is a certain amount of disappointment that it wasn't a better series. But again, I'll go back to, choosing between the two. Yes, I'm disappointed that the Timberwolves didn't play better or play more up to their standard. I'm just more impressed with the Thunder because they exceeded my expectations in terms of what they were capable of doing because they're so young and they're so relatively new to this. Just when I take a step back and I look at them, I'm like, you'd never know that they've never been in the Western Conference Finals before. That last year was the first time, right? And that they're the youngest team in the playoffs. There's just nothing about the way they carry themselves, the way they play, that suggests that. And that's what I find impressive.
And they're so good defensively.
Man. Caruso be talking about a hustle face.
The whole team.
The one steal he got the steal. I forgot who he kicked it back to. It might have been Shea. He just was selfless play. He just said, boom, you take it. I could get me 2 points, but I feel like I'd rather have you get the 2 and I get the assist. That's how you play basketball in winning fashion. You don't be selfish, and he wasn't selfish in that play.
But they have a really magical balance of not being selfish and their stars still getting the shots that they need to get.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
Shea
distribute it, but when it's time for Shea to go off, he goes off.
I never seen nothing like this. A team so young, you know, the way they understand their roles. Because, you know, when you're on young teams, you're still trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to establish yourself in the league. And, you know, sometimes you go out there for selfish reasons. But they're so tight-knit, and they understand their roles at such a young age that this is going to be a team that's going to be good.
It is crazy when you think about it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got guys like Wallace and Wiggins coming off bench and understand I play defense. I make shots. You got Chet Holmgren, who probably could be an all-star. He got to take a step back because of Shea and Jalen and J-Dub. So just to see this from young players at this stage, and you the youngest team in the league, and you already in the finals. But understand, they took their lumps. People forget they've been in the playoffs now for like what, 3 or 4 years.
This is last year was their first year.
Playoffs.
No, they was in the playoffs.
Shea has been in the playoffs with OKC.
Wasn't they in the playoffs
He went with Chris Paul.
That's what I say. He was in the playoffs with CP3.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I was thinking 3 years ago they were not in the playoffs. They were 40 and 42.
They've been in the playoffs for 3 or 4.
Some of them have. Yeah.
The core.
Yeah, some of
the
them.
core.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chet's still relatively new, but to your point, that when I think about it, because when your big three came together, you guys were all veterans,
right?
And the pieces fit, and these young guys, they're making the pieces fit. Like they've slipped into their roles so naturally.
Right.
It's crazy that it's happening that easily.
How does this compare to your 08 Celtics team?
Man, I was looking at the numbers. Like, me just watching it with the eye test, man, they turn defense into offense better than we did. We would just stop you and get the rebound. We was good. This is probably, when I look at it, I say you got Caruso, he's a lockdown defender. You got J-Dub, even Shea is underrated defensively. You got to watch him. Chet, we obviously know. I think our defense was rated all-time, like top 10 all-time rated defense. This is before this is said and done. I think they'll surpass that, especially given with the era of the three-pointers and the pace and the way they're playing defense. And, you know, they're outscoring you by 12 points a game in a regular season, which has never been done. They're going to go down as a top 5 defense. I mean, it's ridiculous watching this because you know a run is coming. And when you look at the numbers, it's hard to really kind of match the numbers because the pace is, like the rating, we have a better defensive rating, but the pace and the scoring is up than when I played.
Right.
And so that's probably equivalent to a lot of the things we do. And look, with off turnovers, as you can see, they're right there. I think they're going to go down as probably a top 5 defense ever. Yeah.
Well, the Timberwolves season is done, and the ending was rough for Anthony Edwards and company. Minnesota clawed up from the 6th seed to their 2nd straight finals appearance before getting rolled by OKC in 5 games. Last night, the Wolves had 12 made field goals and had 14 turnovers in the first half, falling behind 65-32 at halftime and eventually losing by 30 with their season on the line. So, Key, where do the Timberwolves go from here?
Man, you got to first of all, there's a 24, 48-hour cooling off period, whatever the case is. So you got to get your mind right. They got to go get their mind right, even though they're going to have to watch tonight's game because that's what basketball players, athletes do. Watch tonight's game, get that over with, and then just try to figure out what has gone wrong over the last 2 years. They tried that last year when they made the trade for Julius Randle and DiVincenzo and moved on from Cat. Now they have to figure it out again. Like, is there somebody that we need to try to go get to help us in certain situations? Is there somebody on the team that we need to move on from? But the Celtics have been in this situation before, too, when they were constantly in the East getting bounced, getting bounced. Then they finally went and lost to Golden State. And then they finally went again and finally won. So I look at the same sort of pattern for Minnesota. where they're still in it, they can't all of a sudden think, oh, we got to blow this thing up. Let's just go get to our summer and let's regroup. Let's figure it out from that standpoint. That's what I think they should do.
Slick?
Yeah, stay the course. I mean, it is such a young team. Naz Reid is 25 years old. Jaden McDaniels is 26. Obviously, Ant is 23. Julius Randle's 30. The only old guy is Mike Conley at 37. And then you got some young talent on the team. Terrence Shannon Jr. has demonstrated that the playoff stage is not too big for him. Rob Dillingham didn't get a chance to play, but I was impressed with what I saw before he got injured this season. So I think there's something to be said for continuity. And the number one thing for me is that Anthony Edwards has to become what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is for the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is not just being a great talent, but understanding how I lead a team and how I do what's necessary at the right times in a game. When do I have to be aggressive? How do I get everybody else involved? How do I evolve my game so that I can operate in different places on the floor so that defenses don't have as easy a time of a double and triple teaming me and making the floor difficult for me to operate on? I don't think they have that far to go because so much of their trouble has been self-inflicted. And I think if they can clean that up, they can take that next step and they can be in the finals.
Well, for one, Rick, there's no way they can stay the course. I mean, there's levels to this. And OKC showed me the levels. You know, if this series had to win 6 or 7, I can say maybe stay the course. Build what you got. But they have to get better. Clearly they have to get better. They were dominated.
But don't you think they can get better internally?
Well, I think you keep a lot of the pieces together. They got to get younger at the point guard, Mike Conley. I don't believe that Mike can be your starting point guard moving forward. I think he can be a great veteran presence off the bench. But, like, they looked at this team. When they come back for training camp next year, they're going to be like, look, guys, because Oklahoma City's going to win the championship. They're going to win the championship. They're going to say, we're going to have to compete with these guys for the next how many years? So how do we shorten the gap? Because the gap is pretty wide between these two teams. They were number 6 seed, probably could have been a number 2 seed, if not 2 seed, Minnesota, if not for injuries. You have to upgrade Rudy Gobert. He's proved to be a non-factor in the conference finals 2 years in a row. So how do we get better there to bring somebody who can at least contribute on both ends of the court at the center position? And if you can improve there, and a lot of things I didn't see in this series, they didn't make the adjustments. They didn't find ways to get Ant-Man easier opportunities. He had to work so hard from the top, you know, and they were doubling him at the top, doubling him at the wing. They got to find ways to get him easier opportunities. So I think they just got to reevaluate. Don't panic. Re-sign Randall. You can bring him back. And just try to get better, because you forget, OKC's not going nowhere, but other teams are going to get better too. Houston is coming. San Antonio, they're going to be there. They're going to get better. You know, we're not really worried about the Lakers too much, but these other young teams in the mix, they're going to get Denver. Denver's one piece away. They pushed this OKC team to 7.
They KD away?
Yeah, they get one more piece to go with Joker, and they'll be ready. So that's all I say for the Timberwolves. They got to get better internally. Upgrade at the point guard in the center position, they'll be right back in it.
Yeah, I don't think they can stay the course. I don't think you blow it up, but you got dominated.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, because the same thing happened last year, and you tinkered with it, and you got the same exact result. And I don't put this all on Ant. I do think Ant needs to be more consistent in the postseason, but he had no easy shots whatsoever. So they didn't make it easy on him. They didn't make the adjustments. Gobert, again, where are you? If you find him, let us know.
Whatever that game he had, whatever, I don't remember which game it was so long ago.
Versus the Lakers?
Was that against the Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he went crazy.
Yeah,
he used all his playoff
out there looking
juice
like
right
Jokic.
there.
Yeah,
he did all that way back then.
Yeah, I think they keep the core together, but Paul's right. There are some teams coming in the West next year that are going to get better.
It's going to be hard to move Rudy.
No question.
Yeah.
Okay.
They gave up the league to get him.
Yeah.
So double down on him on the mistake?
No, but it's going to be hard for people to want to take the contract and take. Why do I want your
but
jump?
This is also the tricky part. Is you can aim to say we're going to build to beat OKC, and you just mentioned Denver gets another piece.
Yeah.
Maybe Denver's the team to beat. And that's a different dynamic that you're going up against.
Yeah, I don't think that they should
That's why they
necessarily
can't stay the course.
build to beat OKC. They should build to be better internally, but they have to change things. Two years in a row, you've had the same result in the postseason.
But
Western
from
Conference Finals, and you're gone in 5.
But this is relatively other than like Conley. I mean, Rudy Gobert a little bit.
Those are significant pieces.
No, but I'm saying they're a young team as far as I'm concerned.
Right, I'm not saying you get rid of the youth.
And the
I'm
same
saying there's pieces that you need to tinker with.
But think about it. The Celtics went through the same thing. And then they eventually said...
But they added pieces.
That's what I'm saying.
They
Eventually,
were smaller pieces, though.
They added a few pieces. Then they went and got the big piece to win the championship.
Kristaps.
They got, of course, and they got Drew. Those are the two big pieces.
Same two positions Minnesota did.
After they went through what Minnesota's going through, getting hit upside their head.
But I would also say that Jason Tatum evolved and Jaylen Brown evolved.
Right, and we all think that Ant is going to get better. So it's really the other pieces. And those are two significant pieces that they have to look for. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.